Today on Mid-Missouri Art News, we have artists Lorraine McFarland and Mehgan Rowswell. Welcome to JCTV Mid-Missouri Art News, supported by many art enthusiasts, now worldwide, thanks to our YouTube format, what have you. It's coming to you live, almost live, in fact, from the capital city of Jefferson City, Missouri. I'm your host, Rick J., and I have two special guests I've been excited to bring to you today. Artist Lorraine McFarland of Rowswell, Missouri, a member and featured artist today, JCAC, 115-year-old Jefferson City Art Club here in Jefferson City, plus a textile sculptor and Japanese ikebana instructor, Meghan Rowswell of Sedalia, Missouri, both playing a large role in the state of Missouri and other states' art circles. I now turn, if you will, join me, and turn to artist Lorraine McFarland of Rowswell, Missouri, and welcome her to JCTV Mid-Missouri Art News. Welcome, Lorraine, to Mid-Missouri Art News.
Thanks, Rick. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, Lorraine, if I may call you by your first name, would you like to share with us what best description, background, what have you, of Lorraine McFarland?
Sure, Rick. I am primarily a pastel artist. These are my weapons of mass construction, I call them.
Excellent.
They're actually soft pastels, not oil pastels, and that's what I work with primarily. I grew up in St. Louis, and my dad was an artist, and he was very talented, but he was limited by economics and the responsibilities of family obligations, so his art kind of took a back seat. We didn't have a great relationship, but I do remember when I was a little girl, about 9 years old, he started painting a mural on the living room wall, and I sat on a stool next to him, and I was totally fascinated by that.
I can imagine.
And we connected that way, even though we didn't have a lot of connection otherwise, so that was nice. And he taught me basic drawing skills and how to use a grid. And I think that was really the first major event in my life that kind of set me on a path to becoming an artist eventually. I took all the art courses that were available to me in high school, and I was introduced by my intro to art teacher in high school to the Impressionists, and the Impressionists made a huge impression on me.
I see.
And I really got excited, and that was when the spark got ignited in me, I think.
Excellent, excellent.
So I went to college as an art major, and despite the fact that my father told me I didn't have to have inborn talent, I could learn to be a good artist. I saw what the other students could do in my intro to art class, and I got scared away.
I see, wow.
Well, I decided that I kind of followed in his footsteps. I decided I needed to have a job. So I quit art so that I would be financially stable, and I put the art on the back burner, just like my dad did.
I see.
And I kind of let the spark die out.
Sure.
So fast forward to 1997, and I was married, and my mother-in-law, Bertha, became unable to take care of herself because she had Alzheimer's disease. And
see.
so my husband and I made the difficult decision and the scary decision to have me quit my job and take care of her full time in our home. And even though that was scary and financially a burden for us,
I'll bet.
it was one of the best decisions that I ever made because after Bertha moved in with me, I had a lot of time on my hands when I was home with her. So my dad's art supplies, which I had inherited, were in their hiding place in the basement, gathering dust. And I decided to get those out. It was exciting because I can remember digging them out, just looking at them and looking through his drawings and some of the things that he had been working on when he passed away. In fact, I even finished one of his paintings. I should have brought that one today. But anyway, yeah, it was very exciting because I had it in the back of my mind all of my life that I wanted to go back to art. I just didn't know if it was going to happen. So it was fun, it was exciting, it made me very happy, and it relieved a lot of the stress of taking care of my mother-in-law.
I can imagine. It's very therapeutic, we found, in a lot of arenas. I think that's a great story. That's very touching, and so thanks for sharing.
Well, thank you. I started doing some drawing, and I showed those drawings to Dan Woodward, who I know you've had on your show. He's one of my good friends, and I admired his work, and I asked him to take a look, and he said, you need to continue. So he was very encouraging to me, and I started taking courses at the Votech. I took a watercolor course and some drawing courses, but when I took my first pastel course, everything was downhill from there.
You fell in love with the pastels.
I did. I took a course with Teresa Emmett Allison, who's a very talented pastel artist from Rolla, Missouri. And I just kept working throughout those years when I took care of my mother-in-law. She was with us for 8 years.
I see.
And once she passed away, I started showing some of my work, and my very first painting that I showed, it won an honorable mention, and it sold. So I was very encouraged by that. And then 11 years later, I started going to plein air competitions. Plein air is going outside and painting from life like the Impressionists painted. And that really turned a corner. I really turned a corner because it made me learn to paint fast and kind of let go.
Well, your artwork speaks well for itself. It's so awesome, as we'll be sharing. One piece behind you here, we'll be talking about that. So
yeah, I think going up on the screen now is one of my plein air paintings, View to the Gravel Bar.
Oh, excellent. Super. Great. Yes. So again, it's awesome, and it just really inspires me to look at them. Captivation, I guess you could call it. Well, do you have any projects at this moment you'd like to talk about? I know we want to throw them on the screen, and you're the best person to describe these paintings that mean so much to you, and I'm sure our viewers.
Well, yeah, I do have some things coming up. I am going to be I'm working currently on some pieces for the art show at the art house in Fulton called Mimic the Masters. And that is a show where you choose one of your favorite master artists and you paint something similar or like what they did. And you have one of those, I think, coming on the screen. It's called Channeling Claude, my favorite impressionist, Claude Monet.
Oh my, yes.
I have many plein air events coming up. I'll be teaching a workshop at the Augusta plein air event, which is a real honor for me because that's where I got my feet wet 11 years ago. That was the first plein air event I went to, and now, 11 years later, they're asking me to teach a workshop. And that's happening April 27th in Augusta, Missouri. Thank you. And I have a really exciting thing coming up in March. I've been chosen to be the artist of residency in for Texas A&M University biology department.
My.
And in my
honor.
previous life, one of the careers that I chose when I dropped my art major was biology, and I became a field biologist. So I'll be combining two of my passions. The university is going to take me on a boat to an island in the Laguna Madre, and I'm going to stay there for a week and paint by myself.
What an opportunity.
Yeah,
Can I
so
go?
that's going to be a lot of fun.
Gotta go watch.
Pack you in my backpack.
Yes.
What else? I've got a workshop coming up in June at Stone Soup Galleries. That's June 1st and 2nd. Stone Soup Galleries is in Chesterfield Mall in St. Louis, Missouri.
Yes,
And those are the main things that I'm working on right now.
Excellent, excellent. And we'll be, each painting as you described, we'll definitely be looking at them. Well, you're currently the featured artist for 6 weeks on the JCAC website, and you've opted not to show at the DMV, and we do have someone scheduled to fill those walls, and we appreciate you, you know, representing the Jefferson City Art Club today. So what's their next big program or exhibit that
the next exhibit, I'm a brand new member, so I don't know a lot of the stuff that's happening, but what I am interested in myself and will be hopefully submitting a piece for is the Adult Fine Art exhibit. That's going to be at the Capitol Arts Gallery April 6th through May 6th.
And check-in?
Pardon me?
Is there a check-in date?
Deadline to enter is March 30th.
March 30th.
Yes, and that's tied in with the Capitol Arts Around the Town.
Aha. Yes, I'm quite familiar. Thank you. All right. Well, you know, I've invited also, I just got word from the Runge Nature Conservation Center in Jefferson City. And again, we'll be having the call for Nature's Art in 2020 through the months of May and June. Everyone that has been on the show since the October 19th of 2016, and those current, like Lorraine and my next guest, Megan, are invited to show. So put that on your calendar, May and June of 2020. Well, thank you so much, Lorraine. Basically running out of time. So do you have any closing words you'd like to share with our viewers?
Well, if I could just mention a word or two about this painting behind me. I've been a member of the Gateway Pastel Society Artists, Gateway Pastel Artists, which is a chapter of the International Association of Pastel Societies for over 10 years now. And I think I've entered their annual show at least 8 times. And one of my goals when I got back into my art and I joined GPA was to win Best in Show in the Gateway Pastel Artists annual show. And so a milestone for me came in 2017 when I won Best in Show for this painting. This is called Brooks Williams Fret Monster. This is a famous guitar player friend of mine who was called by one of the guitar magazines a fret monster. And he's devoted to his guitar playing, and that's his favorite guitar. So it features the guitar and his hands playing the guitar rather than his face.
Yes.
And an interesting story is that when he saw it, he said he wanted to put it on his next CD, but his people said no because his face wasn't showing.
Oh my. Well, I want to point out that a lot of people think of pastels basically in portrait landscape. But this painting here is just unbelievable what Lorraine has done with these pastels. It looks like an oil painting, and it's so moving. Being a guitar player and the monster of the frets, moving the frets, the finger work, as you say. So that's an excellent piece, and I congratulate you on those honors. Now, do you have a website?
Yes,
on a commission
I do.
basis, someone might want to get a hold of you, or a phone number, email?
Actually, sure. Yeah, I have a website. My website is www.lorrainemcfarlandart.com. My email is lorrainemcfarlandart@gmail.com. You can phone me at 573-578-1559. I have a Facebook page also. It's facebook.com/Lorraine McFarland Fine Art. And I just want to say that I book workshops, I teach workshops, any place anybody wants me to go to teach a workshop. I learn from my students, I'm inspired by my students. They help me to continue to do what I do, and I'm also happy to do commissions. I think you have one of my dog portraits that you'll be putting up on this on the screen. I've sent dog portraits to Alaska.
Fantastic.
And I do, you know, I'll paint any animal.
Right. Well, I want to thank you once again for sharing with us here on Mid-Missouri Art News, JCTV.
Thank you. I've enjoyed being here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Well, after the break, we meet Meghan Rowswell of Sedalia, Missouri, and who you will surely inspire you to some degree. And as we take a close look at a new shared skill here on Mid-Missouri Art News, the Japanese ikebana, and more she has to share. Stay with us. Welcome back to JCTV's Spotlight on the Arts, Mid-Missouri Art News. Join me, please, if you will, in welcoming now sculptor artist Meghan Rowswell of Sedalia, Missouri. We might even call that a textile installation person, and which we'll explain thoroughly here in a couple of moments. Welcome, Ms. Rowswell. It's so great to have you on the show, meeting first time at the Missouri State Fair in 2018. So I've been anxious to have you on the show. So welcome, along with my viewers, to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Super. Well, if I may call you Meghan by your first name, 15 minutes is really not long enough to really share all that you have to cover that makes up your art world in explanation, what have you, and teaching us somewhat in new terms. We will try and cover the highlights of your skills and experiences. You come to the round table basically as a textile installation person and instructor in the art of ikebana. That's a Japanese term, which I'm familiar with, living in Japan for 18 months back in 66, 67. Basically, the Japanese tradition of flower arranging. Yes, so these skills are now new, as I said before, to Mid-Missouri Art News. So we're going to take it from there. Please share us a little bit about you and those highlights of your life that best describe Meghan Rowswell.
Good to be here. Yeah, we moved to Missouri about 4 years ago from northern Japan, and maybe to back up a little bit, I am kind of from Wyoming, kind of from New York, and I went to school for my undergrad in Nebraska at Hastings College, and after school I started using my sewing skills that I learned in 4-H to make fabric work while I was in college. And then after college, I ended up moving to Japan. And so I lived in like the Wild West of Japan.
Up by the mountain?
Up near Hokkaido.
Hokkaido,
yep, in Aomori.
Yes. I was further south, Kyushu.
Oh, yeah.
Area.
So up there, not a lot of people speak English, and there wasn't many art opportunities, so I kind of took my time to learn as much as I could about Japanese textile techniques and Japanese art in general. And I started learning to become a sensei in Japanese flower arranging because it fulfilled my love of flowers, and then it also gave me those wonderful sculptural qualities. Because, yeah.
Also, desu domo sumimasen. Great. So that's where you became inspired. And then what was your next step of inspiration?
Yeah, we came back to Missouri, and I wanted to take, because flowers are so ephemeral, they die really quickly, and I wanted to take all that I had learned about Japanese art and ikebana, and I wanted to translate it into textile sculptures. And so now that I'm back where I can speak the language and I can do shows, I'm taking all those things that I learned and turning them into fabric sculptures.
I was so inspired by the Japanese photography on Kyushu Island, visiting Kumamoto and what have you, Nagasaki. But just the art alone and even their skills of the writing, but in their painting, it's so detailed. So that really inspired me in trying to do my military obligation at the same time, but I held on to that and finally turned back to it after spending some time. Yeah. So the flower work, ikebana, putting pieces together like you have here, so much reminds me of the trees. You know, everything's so delicate when it comes to the Japanese. So, well, take us on down further the road then.
So I like to explore. They have a real wonderful understanding of negative space, and so like in my sculptures, I like to try and create space and to like purposefully move your eye around the piece. And with this embroidery piece I have right here. Embroidery can be really flat, but I worked really hard to use the direction of my stitches and to use my color palette to try and create a lot of three-dimensional space within the embroidery. And so, and then of course the fabric piece behind me, this was the piece called Convergence that I showed at the Missouri State Fair the summer of 2018. And this is only half the installation right here behind me. But it was 4 panels that were 3 feet wide by 45 feet long, and we took them from the corners of the space, and all the panels hung across the ceiling, and they flowed into the center, and then they dripped down from the ceiling in the center. And so, you know, they're playing with the movement of the eye and playing, you know, responding to the space and really trying to bring everything.
And bringing everything in. So if you was at the State Fair last year, you walked in upstairs in the fine arts area, and that's the first thing you saw. Immediately I was drawn to the piece because it reminded me of the festivals that I had witnessed and been a part of in Japan. So again, I said, this lady, she's got to have some history or something within this textile show. So we basically kind of became one in the sense of Japanese art.
Much appreciation.
With a link. And so, and then again, you brought together, trying to bring the elements that were on hand into that one empty big space of a room. All of a sudden, you was inspired to walk in and not only be guided by this piece of art, this textile installation.
So this installation was made out of 100% recycled materials. So this is all made from the lining fabrics of skirts, shirts, and dresses. And it's put together in kind of what Americans would call a patchwork quilt arrangement. The tradition in Japan would be boro, or mending, using scraps from other textile pieces. So me and my assistant, it took us it took us like 3 or 4 months sitting down and just like surging every couple days for a couple hours to put this piece together. And so it was a real big undertaking, but I think it worked out really well in this space, and
it's
very
a super
happy
piece,
with it.
and your embroidery work here, and we'll be showing more of her artwork as we're speaking, as we get into the edit room and add some of those other pieces to share with you. So, well, I guess I should say, what skills, can I ask, what skills define, really go into rather than, I guess you have layout, just like an artist. You have your sewing, what have you. Is there any other elements that you would like to identify with in the Ikebana?
Oh, Ikebana. You know, Ikebana is really, I think there's a really great parallel between textile arts and Ikebana in that you use so much math and so much geometry, and you don't think about it. You don't think, I'm going to sit down and do math today, but what you're really doing is you're thinking about what angle you need to cut. You're thinking about how half a centimeter or half an inch or a quarter an inch seam you have to sew, and so I actually use a ton of math when I am developing a pattern to sew, and then the angle of the flower and the rotation of the flower. So you're really working with how that flower grew in the wild, and you're trying to take nature from the outside and bring it indoors, and creating a little scene from nature. And so art is a lot of math, and it's a lot of science too.
Basically, you're using a lot of geometry.
Yep.
Which we have an artist on the program, and he looks at the elements of geometry to define any piece that he paints. And that's the same thing in the layout of a project that anyone would do on a canvas, or in this instance, or these two instances. So that's really great to share, and we want young artists to think about that. It's just not, you may lay it out, but actually, and it comes together, but you're actually using those elements, as we even see in nature. The creator seems to have designed his own palette in many instances. So I can identify with that and share that on more of a technical aspect. Well, some of your favorite completed projects, do you have anything you'd like to share by title other than that?
I'm working on a big installation right now for Sedalia at the Liberty Center. I'm going to have a solo show, and so a piece that I'm.
And what time? When will this be able to be viewed by our viewers?
This show is going to be open for sure by March 21st. I think our opening is
2019.
Yep, 2019, March 21st, 2019, and the show is going to be open until April 21st is when I'm going to take it down. But yeah, so I'm working right now with working low. I've done a lot of work on the walls, and I've done. I was in the Midwest Invitational down at Springfield Art Museum. I was one of the 4 artists. I represented Missouri, and in that show I experimented a lot with installing from the ceiling, and creating pieces that hang on the wall and that hang on the ceiling. So now I'm gonna go floor for a little bit.
Excellent. Well, I'm really anxious to see.
My website is meganrowswell.com, or and you can reach me by email at Mehgan, Meghan, at madmegh with the H.com. Or you can find me at madmeg.com. I have both URLs. And you can find me at madmeg on Insta and on Facebook. And I can do commission work for embroideries, or commission, if you want to commission fiber sculpture, we can work that out as well. I teach soft sculpture workshops and Ikebana workshops, but I don't have anything lined up just yet. So if you're interested in bringing one of those to a venue near you, give me a holler.
That would be excellent.
I've taught at the I've taught Ikebana at Powell Gardens, at the Kemper Art Museum. I just had a soft sculpture workshop at Missouri Valley College up in Marshall.
Wow.
So
well qualified. That's great. Well, Megan, we're just about out of time. So on behalf of JCTV, Mid-Missouri Art News, which is attempting to bring together all art lovers and enthusiasts in Missouri and the surrounding states through this program, I want to thank you so much for contributing to Missouri Art News and making it a learning and informational experience for all.
Yeah, Thank you so much.
Do you have
for
any
having me.
closing comments for us?
Keep making art.
Thank you so much. Thank you, JCTV producer Glory Enlow and crew. And thank you, our viewers, for watching. It really means a lot to me and others here at JCTV. So look for more Mid-Missouri art news right here at JCTV. And don't forget YouTube. I'm Rick J. saying, see you next time.